Fear comes up all the time, and it's the understanding that courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is what you do with that fear. It's understanding that fear comes up because it's set in our lives to keep us safe. But nothing bad is going to happen to me from doing a presentation, for example. Fear is going to come up, but what do I do with that fear in terms of this presentation or this conversation or whatever the case may be? I'm still not comfortable in fear. Like, that's not a comfort. And that's a good thing because it's still a learning mechanism, right? It's still able to teach me if I'm not comfortable with it. If I'm comfortable with something, learning's over and I'm going to move on.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. I am your host, Randy Sparks, and we have an amazing guest with us today, Eric Ayers. Welcome to the conversation.
Randy, so glad to be here, man. Super excited for this conversation.
Well, Eric, that makes two of us. And rather than me explaining who in the world is Eric, could you please explain to us a little bit about what's meaningful to you and why we are having this conversation today?
Yes, this is a loaded question because coming with Eric is a caveat of many different aspects. So ultimately, my passion in this world is human connection. So how do we solve the world's problems? How do we create improvements within our work, within our relationships, within everything we do through human connection? So the underlying foundation of me, my business, everything I do is Ubuntu, the South African term for I am because we are, because we're so much better together. And infused in that is how do we bring our 5-year-old self into this? Because our 5-year-old selves were innately genius to play and to bring the attributes and the genius of everyone around us into the sandbox. And so ultimately, in a nutshell, that's me.
Okay, I imagine there's a lot behind that, and I will, the listeners, I'm gonna fill you in. I actually know a little bit more, but I'm gonna make Eric fill in the gaps. So Eric and I met recently, introduced by a wonderful friend. We'll call out our good friend Randy McNeely, the kindness superhero, and he met us and said, "You two need to connect," and so that's how Eric and I have become friends since then. And I was really inspired by Eric's journey of learning a few of these things. So Eric didn't just one day decide, oh, we need to be our 5-year-old selves. And because that means this, and welcoming people to the sandbox and curiosity and openness and connection, from my point of view, is something I agree with. And I think there's beauty and simplicity in the idea of that 5-year-old version of myself. What was that boy like? What's different from that boy and me now? What have I gained that he did not have? What have I let go that he had? But my learning of that, why is that important? Okay. So how did you discover that matters?
Oh, okay. A bit of a long story.
Bring it on. I want to hear the story
Let's do
because
it.
I know there's a lot of nuggets in here, and it's this journey arc. And so
Yes.
please lay it on.
Yes. And before I dive into that, yes, shout out to Randy McNeely, beautiful human being who so appreciative of him and the work that he's doing and this introduction, because when he introduced us, I read Sparks of Gratitude. And my purpose in this life is to create opportunities for sparks of transformation. So those are little breadcrumbs that I offer the world. So I'm highlighting that because that is a huge play on Sparks of Gratitude, because gratitude plays into my journey significantly. So,
hey there, everyone. Did you know that beyond hosting the Sparks of Gratitude podcast, I am also an estate planning attorney, and I love gratitude, and my law firm is proud to sponsor this video. Since 2010, in my law practice, I have designed and delivered customized peace of mind with sophisticated estate planning made easy. So whether you need foundational estate planning, including revocable trusts, wills, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives, which is what most people need, or you might need advanced strategies such as irrevocable trust for asset protection or advanced estate tax planning, I am here to guide you every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, your peace of mind is my peace of mind. You can visit randallsparks.com and I can get started helping you plan for the future today. Now back to our podcast.
Way back when, I became a registered nurse, still a registered nurse, and I worked in pediatrics and loved working with kids. They're just amazing. And about 10 years into that, I was tapped out on the skills. So, okay, my whole life has been become the best version of whatever I'm doing. And then the next thing, well, I was presented with an opportunity of what's next. And I didn't have an answer to that. So I kept doing the same thing. It was rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And one day I realized I have no idea who this person is staring back in the mirror at me. And I was completely out of shape in every way possible, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And I just did not like the world at all. And my wife lovingly grabbed me, gave me a hug before I left to go to work one night. She was like, look for something good because it's there. You just have to find it. So that's what I did. Reluctantly, I did, and, I heard her voice in my head that evening when I'm about to walk into my first patient's room to do an assessment. I'm like, "Okay, look for something good." "Okay," and I open the door, and this beautiful 4-year-old patient who has Down syndrome, who was super sick, but all she could give me was this one energy, and I was like, "I have no idea what this energy is, but dang, it's good." And it was like sucking me in, you know? I'm like, how can one person be so sick, however, offer this goodness to another human being? And then her dad started talking to me. And I'm like, this is a similar energy from a different person, a tall, like 6'3" person who's very gentle. And it was good. And I'm like, I don't know what this is, but dang. And that's what I started looking for. And it started shifting everything because I realized without realizing it, so subconsciously I realized I've been looking for the other side of what's bad, this is gonna suck, all these things, and that's what I've been finding. And all it took me was to say, "What is good?" And it was right there in front of me. Turns out that was unconditional love that I felt, and when I realized that, it was like an emotional break into, "Okay, this is awesome." And so that's what I started doing. I started looking ultimately at the other side of the coin and started flipping perspectives of those around me because it's right in front of us. We just have to choose to see that. And this came at a time where also I realized I wasn't feeling emotions. So that's why I couldn't recognize what emotion this was because I had been protecting myself from working in the emergency department in pediatric medicine for so long that I didn't feel emotions anytime. I was just angry. Turns out I was sad and it was expressed as anger. So that was the pivotal moment of shifting from old habitual negative loop patterns of Eric into this world of possibility. So I'll pause there because the journey it keeps going, but I'll pause there for a bit.
Yeah, well, I wanna hear about where the journey goes and how you because that how many years ago was this approximately that your wife said, "Look for something good"?
So this was roughly 9, 10 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're 10 years in to your career. You're at this point where you feel, "I need to" you're maybe at a ceiling, but don't know where to go from here,
Right.
and then started to feel like you're just going through the motions, blocking your ability to feel your emotions, and kind of just feeling blank and lost and not recognizing yourself. Okay.
Correct.
So this process takes 10 years, and now it's been almost 10 years since there was
Yes.
kind of this catalyst. Okay. So I would like to know, what is it about your wife that brought this out of you? Like,
Mm.
why did she see this?
What First of all, an amazing question, right? Because this was a seed of Ubuntu planted in me. Like this was my purpose planted in this moment. This is my best friend, right? This is someone that when she discovers something new in life, I'm the first one she shares it with. Whether I want to hear it or not at the time, she knows that it will make us better together. And she's the first one that I go to when I do the same. So we're in this journey together of she will fast forward and like it's like we're on the same river and she'll catch this fast turbulent water and be like, "Oh, man, I'm way up here. Eric, go to the right, follow the rocks and catch up with me." It's that kind of progression and this was the first actual moment of understanding that. And I love the question also because we tend to remember things the way that we think they happen because this was a pivotal moment. But what about all the other steps that happen up until that point? And there was a lot of, self negotiation, self talk, self back and forth. And it's almost like she's like lovingly shaking me, saying, "It's right here in front of you. This is the key. I'm empowering you to open the door. It's up to you though. Like I can't open it for you." And it was the love behind it, but I didn't recognize that at the time. Ultimately, that's what it was. And I mean, she's my person. So that's that's what it was.
So before that, you say you now go back and you can recognize that, oh, this is what's actually happening. She discovers something, learns something, she grows, she stretches, and she's like, dude, you gotta hear this. You know,
Exactly, exactly.
check this out, listen to what I learned, whatever that may be. Um, but what is that something that you knew to trust, or was this kind of difficult at the time where you're like, whatever? It,
I trusted her. I honestly didn't trust the outcome of it
Mhm.
because I didn't trust self. I trusted her, I did not trust me
Tell
at
me
that
more
at
about
that
that,
moment.
about not trusting yourself.
Yeah, I it took a while to allow myself to actually question decisions, question, why am I doing something this way? Like, is this is a habitual pattern? Why is this best for me if it is best for me? It was, okay, this is the foundation that we built as a couple, as a relationship of, I have my bucket of things I'm responsible for. She has her buckets of things. And I saw her as better at taking knowledge and putting those into action. And so that was a trust. It's like, all right, I see you as, this is a potential attribute of yours. And it's led us this far in our relationship thus far. So I'll do this. And I was almost at a point to where what did I have to lose? So if she's trusting in me enough to say, "Here's the key, open your own door." I'm showing you where the door is, by the way. Like, all you have to do is turn the key and open it. If she's doing that for me, then okay, let's try it. What do I have to lose? Because I am so burned out and ready for a change. Cool. I'll try it. So I think ultimately that actually wasn't rock bottom. Rock bottom came after that, which is fascinating. But that helped me understand how to prepare for rock bottom.
Tell me about your rock bottom.
Rock bottom was shortly after that when everything was going great because there was goodness everywhere and I was screaming it from the rooftops, like, "Oh, this is great. This is you need to do this. Stop looking at it that way." Not understanding or not taking time to empathize with others to say they're not ready, right? They see something, it's intriguing and they want that, but they're like I was before I got to the point of saying, "Okay, I'm ready to see something good." So, I had this, like, "I don't know why you don't want this. This is amazing," and I had difficulties within relationships, but and then I developed a medical condition that I exhausted all of Western medicine, and for a year, went through literally my own hell, and that was my rock bottom, but it was also the greatest gift I could have ever had because it was forcing me to see the other side of the coin at every single turn. And it was forcing me to say, I believe in myself. I believe in my own genius, my own wisdom, my own resourcefulness, because turns out one of my attributes is extreme resourcefulness. And it opened up and elevated and revealed these attributes that I had been hiding for so long or didn't even know. And it led me into amazing things like meditation, breath work, food as medicine, hmm, which was interesting. And that was actually my first step into shifting everything about Eric and becoming a new being was through food. Food allowed me to become a better husband, a better dad, a better man, a better a better human interacting in this on this earth. And so that was rock bottom, but at the same time, rock bottom was like a new platform to say, all right, we've gone through school, we've gone through all of this, but now let's actually learn. And it's like, all right, cool. So that was my bare sandbox that I actually was able to build based on who I am. And and from that, I was introduced to like human design, which I realized, oh wait, I'm an emotional generator. And no wonder I felt so out of alignment because I have to use my emotions in order to make adequate decisions. And if I can't feel, I'm not making decisions based on Eric's well-being. It's on basis of someone else. So all of these things were like, oh, I had to go through this in order to understand, you know, the realism of who Eric is.
Mm. So, what I'm hearing in your story is what I think is kind of the repeated, continual upward spiral of every individual's hero's journey, right?
Yes.
Where everyone kind of begins at where they are, and then there's a call to adventure of some sort, and you may resist that call, but then at some point you cross the threshold into this, and along the way you learn and you grow and you meet allies and friends and foes and mentors. But then eventually there's this culminating event where there's this cave, right? And the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Well, what caves did you enter? One you described was, well, it's this threshold that this of, well, who am I now as a pediatric nurse? What's next? And then fearing or hiding those emotions perhaps, but then somehow you enter that cave and uncover something within it. And that is through a difficult, deep, dark night of the soul, right? But the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. But then you come through this, and then what happens is you gain this new knowledge and insight about seeing the good. And what does that do? I mean, you're preaching that from the rooftops of like, guys, look at all the good that's out here. And then and you've become something new, like the death of an old you and the resurrection of a new you, and you are now expanded and transcended. But then what happens is we repeat the cycle. You're like, okay, well, now I'm expanding, and then something new happens, a health challenge, right? And you say you're so grateful for that because it was your deepest, darkest, lowest point, but in that is where you discovered the treasure, right? Were it not for that, would you have uncovered these things, right? And so being reborn out of that experience is now a new, more expanded version of yourself, right? And I think acceptance of that this is going to be the continual process in my life, that I will enter a new cave and I will gain something new out of that, right? That gives me the fear and opportunity to be courageous, to enter into that with the belief that it will be revealed to me once again that I have something within me that I was unaware of. I have more strength and awareness in myself beyond what I even think I'm capable of now, right? And to continue to expand. And so just in your short story, I've seen you share that continual growth and expansion into what you didn't think was possible or you were capable of. It was actually inside you all along. You just
Yes.
needed to find it, and it took that dark cave to discover it.
Absolutely. Very well put. And thank you for thank you for the brilliance in how that was captured. Genuinely, thank you. And
Okay.
and 2 quick points to throw in there. Part of this, I thought my darkest cave at the beginning was, relationships of those that I'd relied on that had helped create this habitual loop. I had to stop. And I thought that was the hardest part because, that's what was first and foremost. But because of that, I was brought into, I call them my Justice League table. It's the intangible mentors that I began to seek out because they were already seeking me. And so Wayne Dyer introduced me to, if I don't like what I'm looking at, then change the way I look at it, and what I look at will literally change. And then led me on to other people who I'm like, okay, this is Eric learning. This is Eric so thirsty for knowledge that I'm just going to go after this. And since people didn't want to hear the goodness screaming from the rooftops, I was like, I'm going to fill my vessel with so much knowledge that I want and need right now that I have power to do that. And that was huge for me to say I get to choose what I learn, right? It's not dictated by school. And at the same time, as I'm changing, I never stopped to think of the mourning that my wife would have to go through because she was mourning the loss of literally the person that she married. And this is huge because this was a beautiful act of her surrendering to allow me to become who I needed to be. And then we work together to mourn and say, okay, now what does this look like? Now who are we? Now how much more powerful are we as a whole, as a couple? And so just pausing there to say the relationships we mourn, actually mourn that person that we thought, you know, we married, but ultimately we marry the beauty and the energy behind that person and the potential that they have. And that's really difficult for the human essence of Eric to grab a hold of at times because it's like, no, this is comfortable. You need to stay here. This is very comfortable to me. This helps me. And so anyway, that was an interesting. I didn't think about that until my wife was like, "No, I'm sad. Like I literally miss the old Eric. I love the new one, but I miss aspects of the old Eric." Like, "Oh, okay. I don't know how that's supposed to make me feel, but because I'm becoming me." So it's yeah, interesting dichotomy and play on human relationships.
Yeah, I'd like to jump into that. I would like to get into the idea of, what does it mean that, these sparks of transformation that you um, go through yourself and that you invite people on that own journey where you want to help other people spark their own transformation. That's an
Yeah.
important part of the work that you're doing to help people do. I just love this idea that you mentioned, kind of pairing this mourning the loss of, a prior version of self or another relationship, but acceptance and letting go of, with belief that something greater is coming. So you mentioned that your wife, when she gave you this invitation, she let go to let you discover this for yourself,
Yes.
right? So she is not in control of you, right? She let go of that control. But then as you change, I imagine. Now you tell me if I'm right or wrong,
Yeah.
but I'm only saying this from my own experience, is that there are prior versions of me, prior versions of my spouse, prior versions of our marriage that I have had to go through the process. And I didn't know this was occurring, where I'm clinging to or hanging on what this relationship once looked like. And I believe that it must still look like I want it to look like it looked at this point in time, or this, series of moments in time. And then my happiness is keyed to that expectation of it looked like this once. I want it to look like that now. And especially if it's not looking that like that, I'm comparing it to that. And so I'm dissatisfied. I'm like, why is it like this? I'm not like I once was, or our relationship doesn't feel like it once did. But I'm trying to, rather than letting that go and accepting what is, I'm robbing myself of joy now because I'm I'm demanding that it look like something that is past, right? And I believe that gratitude is the highest form of acceptance of what is, not a demand for it should look like something else. Okay. And so, talk to me about your experience with the idea of mourning the loss of, a previous version of yourself or a previous version of your relationship and accepting what is now.
Absolutely. It's an interesting construct that we find ourselves in, or at least I found myself in, because it's almost like the ego is holding on and doesn't want to let go because it's like, no, I got you this far for this long and we were good. We were doing really well. It reminds me of, our amygdala, like our lizard brain. That's why we have that instinct to fight, fly, or freeze because it's kept us alive. I'm 45 years old. It's kept me alive for 45 years of existence. So that's what it's put in there for. So when we're faced with a potential opposition or the opposite, it comes in to say, no, 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 we can't let go. This is comfortable. And it's interesting how our physical world and our mental world kind of overlap because I think it's Gary Brecka speaks a lot about aging is becoming more and more comfortable. Like every day we become more and more comfort. So therefore the aging process is driving towards the ultimate comfort. So if we think about that in terms of what we're talking about now, it's based on relationship. It's based on this continual evolution. And if we're comfortable being where we are, we will not evolve. And that was a key insight for me, for my analytical mind. So, on my human design, I have this pressure from this analysis of my mind. And then I also have this umph from instinctive and emotional coming from below that are always in, like, they always want a seat at the table. They always want a voice. And so I hear that all the time. So sometimes my analytical mind will drive into, I need evidence. I need to understand this. So, that was my first evidence of identifying this shows up when we are faced with a potential shift and evolution because we are evolved and evolving. And so Bob Proctor, I have to give him props for two things. One, introducing me to how to use gratitude as a manifestation technique and how to actually tap into the world of gratitude. And so I'm so happy and thankful now that, and fill in the blank. And it's like, what does that feel like? What is that? What is that? The other thing is kind of what we're talking about. He says we are already spiritually perfect. And in that perfection, we are spiritual beings always seeking for expansion. Okay, if I'm always seeking for expansion, that means if I'm at a crossroad and I'm feeling a pull to say, no, don't go. Like, come back here. The water's safe. Like, the water's warm. We're safe. We're good. And I feel a pull going the other way that's like, no, this is actually the world of possibility. I have to go to the world of possibility because that is me expanding. And when I realized that, when I try to hold Jennifer's hand and hold her back from expanding into who she needs to be, I'm actually in the way of her expansion at a spiritual level. I'm actually playing God in her role in her life, and that's not my job. So after after a lot of talking, a lot of practicing, that was the mutual understanding from both of us is I don't wanna get in the way of your expansion. I want you to know that I care for you, I love you, and, like, I'm still have a human part of me that wants to gravitate towards the things that are comfortable, and the comfort is what is so difficult to let go of sometime, and when I do let go of that, that comfort turns into treasure. Like, the trade-in for comfort turns into, "Oh my god," like, you just expanded the value of our lives together dramatically through this spiritual expansion, through this becoming of this continued blossoming of who she needs to be, who I need to be. And so this becomes a dance, right? Ultimately, it's a dance of letting go and taking lead, letting go and taking lead, and it flows, and it doesn't work like that all the time. If if it did, this would be so easy, and we wouldn't be having this conversation because we wouldn't be going into that deep dark place, that deep dark cave of enlightenment of, oh, this is where I learned the greatest lessons. And by the way, cave is my this is interesting that this is coming up. Cave is my place at a energetic and design level of like where I need to be and where I like to be, because I know in the cave is where I learn, where I grow, and where I gather resources. So,
So that discomfort, that opportunity for growth and expansion, um, where you say now your place where you like to go because it represents something different for you, that cave, that symbolic cave that
yes.
represents that opportunity. Did you once look at that with fear or resistance, and now you embrace that as opportunity for expansion? That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes, yes, I do. And here's the thing, like fear still comes up. Fear comes up all the time. And it's the understanding that fear, like courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is what you do with that fear. It's understanding that fear comes up because it's set in our lives to keep us safe. But nothing bad is going to happen to me from doing a presentation, for example. Fear is going to come up, but what do I do with that fear in terms of this presentation or this conversation or whatever the case may be? So, yeah, I'm still not comfortable in fear. Like that's not a comfort, and that's a good thing because it's still a learning mechanism, right? It's still able to teach me if I'm not comfortable with it. If I'm comfortable with something, learning's over and I'm going to move on, which is a fascinating point that I just realized. So I'll dive into that later.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I recently had several podcasts ago, a guest named Jill Schulman who wrote a book called The Bravery Effect, which talks about the idea of fear and bravery. And I mean, for one, you just nailed it that, fear is not, or bravery is not the absence of fear, but it's really the way we respond to it. And, somebody does not just have the trait of bravery, right? But it's a choice that one makes because fear arrives. And I always would tell my kids that, if you can't be brave if you're not afraid, right?
Absolutely.
And it invites like, oh, there's fear. That means I get to become brave. I get to choose to be brave, right? And we're not in this modern world. Most of the time, our fears aren't life threatening,
Right.
but they are social fears,
Mhm.
fears of comparison, of being in front of people, of being embarrassed. These are the fears that one faces of like, oh, I might do it wrong. I might, and all of this is going to be, viewed in public because everything is, all over the place. I don't want to fail, right?
Right.
These are the
Right.
fears that we face now predominantly, right? And so, but how do we notice that that fear is a signal of the direction to go rather than to stay put and retreat, right? It's like, oh, well, fear is there. That could very well be the indication of the direction I need to move. So,
Mhm.
all right. So I kind of want to pivot and harken back to the sandbox, right? Because we
Oh,
went
yeah.
through this whole journey and we've come and you said, okay, well, it's about connection. It's about becoming that 5-year-old again or having this new relationship with the 5-year-old version of me. What did he have that I can remember, right? And what is
Yes.
beauty in that 5-year-old? And so one of those things I believe is curiosity, right? And
Absolutely.
so maybe let's talk. Maybe I'll let you talk about why the 5-year-old.
Why the 5-year-old? The 5-year-old self, my 5-year-old self knew innately what to do without being told, because what he was doing was offering himself to the world and his superpowers, because we all have superpowers. The late amazing people like Einstein, they call them genius. Like, our superpowers are, we're all geniuses. And my 5-year-old self had an innate ability to bring his genius with him everywhere. And understanding that when we get a bunch of people together, everyone's genius just highlights. Because if if I'm tapping into my genius and Randy, you're tapping into your genius in the sandbox, like we're beginning to build a better castle, as opposed to me, which is I'm gonna get it built really quick because I want to do the river. Like, I want to get to the river, and that's the last part. So my attention to detail was not my superpower. But let's say yours is. All right, cool. We have a detail oriented person. We have someone that is working super fast to get that done so I can get to my part. And as we gain more people into the sandbox, everyone does the job that they're amazing at. And they all feel like they're giving to the team. And no one feels left out. No one feels that they're not good enough, because we're all there for the same objective. But we've assigned our own roles to ourselves, because we already have an understanding of, we know what we're doing, and this is our specialty, and we're going to stick to it. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And it all begins with that curiosity. Like, my 5-year-old self, for example, had boundaries, needed boundaries. But more importantly, I would skate those boundaries. How far can I stretch these boundaries? That was my innate thing. So interesting, earlier on, you gave the metaphor of me hitting a ceiling. Yes, that was me saying, I don't feel that I can stretch my boundaries anymore. So what do I do now? And that's what my 5-year-old was good at, because would take a boundary as far as it could go, and then what's the next boundary? And let's keep stretching the boundaries a little bit farther, a little bit farther. And what that does is it gives more room for others to come in and play. And I had no idea until within the past 6 months or so that that was something I did, and that's something I do. And from the professional world, through this transition after the misdiagnosis and going through the greatest year of my life, I had the opportunity and was introduced to design thinking. And I sat in a room with 25 other people and was reintroduced to that 5-year-old. And I was given almost like words to match my feelings on, this is how Eric thinks. This is how Eric operates. And this is how Eric interacts in business. It was like, "Oh my god, thank you." And I was reintroduced to the world of possibility. And that moment was like this complete shift of, I feel aligned. And once I felt aligned, I feel like I have a purpose. And the analogy of all 5-year-olds in a sandbox, they're in there because they all have a purpose. And they're having fun going towards that purpose. So, my question is, how do we create pockets and sandboxes in the professional world of purpose-driven people doing things that align with their purpose, building whatever it is needing to be built, and allowing their genius to be expressed? So at a very, very, like, small level, that's ultimately the passion I have in the professional world.
And how do you help people uncover what their purpose is?
By doing. And the quickest way to answer that is, if someone wants to learn how to ride a bicycle, I give them a bicycle. I give them a few introductions of, this is how it works, but figure it out. Like, let me play with the bicycle. Let me play with the thing that is needed, and my innate attributes will pop out. So, for example, this is the model of micro moments to macro shifts. We begin super small, because if someone's like, I don't have a purpose. Yeah, you do. Let's figure it out together. So, the SMRX, was built on this idea. And SMRX is our prescription for compassion, for competency, right? In mainly in healthcare, but in any business. And it's how we use education to become so competent that now we can have human interactions because we know our job so well. So we had this situation come up. This nurse is like, "Hey, I haven't done this skill in a while. I have an order on it to do it on a patient. Do we have anything I can practice?" No, we actually don't. You have to go over to the simulation center, and we can't right now. It's in the middle of the night. So this led into creating this, right? So I created it a week later. This is late, right? I bring it to her, and it's just, you could tell this is a DIY. I brought it to her. I'm like, "Check it out. Let me know what you think." She's like, "This is awesome. Like, this is amazing." And here's what happened, Randy. This was the introduction to me on how we highlight people's purpose. Someone overheard this and said, "We need a kit for whatever. Can I build one?" They didn't say, "Will you build one?" They said, "Can I build one?" "Oh, absolutely. Please. Here's a rough framework. Here's the bicycle. Here's 3 steps to get you started. Let me know when you're done, or let me know what you need." And this kept going. And I'm like, "Okay, this is cool." Everyone's purpose was being highlighted. And as we started this, the team started saying, "Well, I will do more of this." So the very organized would say, I will do the instructions. I will make sure all this is legit." Those that are extroverted, outgoing, "I'll do the video." And they started gravitating towards the pieces that brought them joy. And like, all right, cool, cool. And this is how it is represented, is through opportunities. Because if it's in front of me and I approach it, my genius is going to come alive because it knows exactly what to do, because that's what interests me. And that is what I'm good at. And this is everyone. And it's almost like I invite you and I give you permission to explore. That is the only 2 criteria needed in order to get someone to understand their purpose.
I love it. Empowering people to uncover it for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is what drew me into coaching, is how do we empower people to discover this through themselves, like through their own journey, right?
Right, to spark their own transformation.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
and so tell us a little bit about what's part of that of your coaching, who you engage with, how they engage with you, and a little bit about pep talks.
Yeah, absolutely. So coaching, it's twofold. I do leadership coaching at University of Tennessee in the MBA program and MBA students, and I love this. I love this because it never fails. They're looking for leadership coaches in terms of tell me what to do, and that's more of consulting. So the coaching is, I'm going to empower you to uncover the answers that you already have and you already know. Let's dive into what do you want? What are your goals? And twofold, how do we get there? But also, how do we stay on track as those goals pivot, because your value and your purpose begins to come into full view, right? Because it's obscured at first. So that's super fun because it's very specific to the leadership within MBA. The other is those that feel lost. Like, it's the representation of me 10 to 12 years into nursing. Like, I am misaligned with who I am. Like, there's something off. How do I get back on track, and how do I get to who I need to be? And those to me are, it's like a blank canvas. And it's like, all right, then let's design the life that you want. So that's aligned by design. And we can use human design. We can use the framework that you came to this earth with, and we can begin to align towards that blueprint and that framework. We can do life coaching. I have a goal. I want to get here. What are the steps I need to do to get there? And everything in between, because the process is the same. It's just a different set of, it's a different tool belt. So that on my website, lifebydesign.me, all kinds of fun information. If you really want a deep dive, we go on a 6 weeks journey of transformation. And that is a hard reset into who am I and how do I get back on this journey of becoming self.
Well, my invitation to our listener is if you're asking yourself those questions, you know, take that curiosity and consider giving yourself the gift of this process of uncovering that for yourself. And Eric could be a good opportunity to help you through that process. So check out lifebydesign.me. And also check out Eric's podcast, which is Pep Talks with Eric. So tell us a little bit about your
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. So Pep Talks was born 3-4 years ago. I had an amazing opportunity to do a podcast workshop with Seth Godin and through Akimbo. And it was one of the greatest gifts I ever gave myself. I tell everyone that I met Seth Godin, and he told me that my kindness was needed in the world. And so it was Zoom, yes, but I still met him. All right. That's the important thing. So the podcast was Purpose Empowered Podcast. I had 7 episodes. One of them was my wife, one of them was my 12-year-old daughter at the time. And this was practice, but this was uncovering purpose, right? And 7 episodes in, work got really busy and was like, I have to put this on pause. Well, my wife, she's a nurse by background as well. So her and I, with this nursing background, she was like, Eric, Purpose Empowered Podcast is PEP. So Pep Talks. And I was like, ooh, well played. Well played. Because nurses love acronyms. We love them. We live by them. And I was like, well played. And that was always in my mind of when the relaunch comes, this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be Pep Talks associated with, that play on words with coaching, but it's ultimately underneath all of it is purpose empowering. And the goal, the idea is based on this premise. During the time of my burnout, I was going to work and coming home listening to things that weren't feeding me. They weren't fueling me. And what I learned about nutrition was it's not just what I eat, it's everything that I consume. So I shifted, and my 25 to 30-minute commute to work there and home, I started listening to old teachings by Wayne Dyer, started listening to Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale. The list goes on and on and on. And I started creating mindset shifts. And I had no idea I was doing this consciously. I knew that when I got to work, instead of, ugh, this is going to suck, or I hope they recognize me tonight, it shifted to, I wonder who I'm going to serve tonight. Like, I wonder who I have the opportunity of improving their life just a little bit simply by interaction. And that may sound like a very small shift, but oh my God, it changes everything. At least it did in me. So the podcast was built to say, if you're going to work, if you're coming home, let's shift out of potentially negative feedback loops and let's start building some positive feedback loops to where when you get to where you're going and you're going to interact with the world, you have a mindset shifted to how may I serve and how may my genius spark your genius and give you permission to come to the sandbox. And that's where it was born and that's what it's about. And I have amazing people like you, Randy, come on the show and share stories and help me get this out into the world around this Ubuntu of I am because we are, and we are because I am. So the plural form of humanity begins to work for one another instead of against one another.
Amazing. Well, folks, you heard it. There's your invitation, and in the wonderful words of Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And Eric's done a great job
Yes.
of inviting us to change the way we look at things, and that will change the world we live in. And in the end, it will transform ourselves as well. So check out lifebydesign.me, check out Pep Talks. And we're so grateful that you joined us today for this conversation. Eric, thank you so much. And I can't wait till we have this again.
Oh, Randy, it was my pleasure. I am gratitude right now, man, for being in this space. So thank you so much.
Amazing. All right. We'll see you next time, everyone.